I was going to ask you, just for our listeners, like, what's one of the craziest things that either you did or you saw somebody do when you were in the KGB that you just kind of brushed off, like, this is normal, this is acceptable?
All right, let me think about that. This is a question is new to me, so I don't have a pre-digested answer in here. First of all, I rarely ever saw somebody else operating. You know, I was trained one-on-one. There was no classroom setting. The moment I joined the KGB, I became a state secret of the Soviet Union. You know, illegals were very, very well protected, and the because we were extremely vulnerable. You know, if a diplomat gets caught, a diplomat who was actually an agent for the KGB, he has diplomatic protection. They would just get kicked out of the country. If we get caught, we wind up in jail. You know, and
Right.
then we possibly become a danger to the Soviet Union because there's a possibility that we might turn to save our skin, and then become a double agent. So uh, I did not witness anybody doing stuff other than when I met people in third countries to exchange passports on my travels back and forth to Moscow. Um, uh, um, I, I I did some really stupid things based on ignorance, and the and I'm going to go out in public now. This is not in the book because I was truly I was ashamed to admit that. See what happens when you spend several years undercover doing what you know is a dangerous job, and everything works out. You know, you're doing well. Uh, um, well, this one I will share. But I'm going to share two of them. Stupid things. I went back to college because as a my I couldn't take my resume with me. I had a master's degree in chemistry, but you know I had to start from scratch. I got a I got a high school equivalency diploma, and then I went to college in New York, and and my ambition ran away uh, with me. I wound up working so hard that I graduated with a 4.0 average. And what I wasn't aware of at the time, I should have known better, is cultural ignorance, that qualified me to be the valedictorian. So I I I had a talk with the I forgot what the title is, what one of the
The
administrators,
dean or something?
the
Yeah.
dean, yeah, the dean of
Yeah.
students.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Uh, he called me into his office and he asked me, "So, what's uh, what are you gonna talk about in your graduation speech?" I said, "What? Huh? Well, you're the valedictorian." I said, "Okay. Well, you know, I'm not really. I don't really need to be out in public. I don't deserve it. You know, I'm 10 years older than all the other kids. You know, why don't you give it to the second one who would, you know, get, you know, who get will would get great satisfaction out of being on stage and giving that the graduation speech." He says, "No, we can't do this. This is the rules." And then he said, and
Oh my God.
if you're uncomfortable, and I said, "I'm not really comfortable speaking in public." "Well, you can write the speech and we let somebody else read it." And I said, no, I'm not that much of a coward. So I agreed to talk, and and so I wound up giving the graduation speech uh, in Madison Square Garden. There were about 4,000 people in New York, 4,000 people in the audience,
Wow.
and I exposed myself. That was a high risk thing to do, simply because visually everybody knew I was older than I was about 10 years older than the average student, and and I had a touch of an accent. I still do, and interestingly enough, nobody reached out to me afterwards and said, um, well, I'm interested in how you got there. 10 years older, and you have a bit of an accent. You sound like a European. Nothing like that. In hindsight, I think this was God protected me from that questioning because he had other plans for me. But that was high risk and irresponsible. But the most irresponsible thing and the weirdest thing, and we're not talking about espionage related. These hands have never touched a gun. I never did any kind of high speed chases, this and that. It was all very well organized. Any activity espionage related was it was just like well organized, and you operated in the shadows. I'm going to give you another example that where I didn't take a risk, but that was probably the um, one of the key moments of my career as a spy. So I was maybe in my second or third year in the United States. I get a request from Moscow to fly to California and visit the University of California in forget. Sometimes in my age I got a block of when the town will come to me. It's outside of LA in the mountains, San Bernardino, and see if a certain Nikolai Karlov lives in San Bernardino and teaches there. Well, that's trying to find a needle in a haystack. I did find him in the local phone book, so I found out that he lives there, and I walked around and looked at his home. And he had a nice house, but whether he still studied there, that was taught there, that was an interesting task. So I just went to the campus and walked around just to see if I find any hints. And so I walked up and down the hallways, and one of the hallways, all the way at the end, to my left, I remember this like it was yesterday, there was a door with a nameplate that says Nikolai Karlov, professor, whatever. And as I'm staring, and I'm like jubilant about the success. I'm staring at that nameplate, the door opens, and the person inside comes out. It turns out about a few weeks after, this man was on television, and he was talking about his career and his defection from the KGB. I realized that there was a moment where, and he shared with the TV the interviewer that he was under a death sentence.
Oh.
Okay, so there was a moment where an active KGB agent was looking in the eyes of a convicted KGB agent, and neither one of us knew it.
Wow.
Oh man.
It's really bizarre. So I reported back to the KGB, and I'm so glad that they decided not to go forward with what they had considered. I think they had considered possibly, assassinating him. So, and now I'm going to give you the stupidest thing that I've ever did. I smuggled a small amount of marijuana from New York through Heathrow Airport, through Moscow into East Berlin to give my German wife a taste of what it's like to smoke a joint. But
She smoked it with you, or what?
you know how stupid that was? I now realize it because I found out that the dogs that they use at airports, they can smell through. I had it in a toothpaste and in plastic, and I figured that'll be totally safe. Well, no, the dogs would smell through that. I had no idea. Thank God there was no dog sniffing around, because when one time uh, I was already traveling legally, I had an apple in my carry-on. And apples, when you enter the United States, fruits and vegetables are prohibited. And I was waiting for my suitcase, and the dog was sniffing my bag, and the agent said, uh, "Please open this. There's something in there that we don't like." And it was an apple. The apples don't smell. So, okay, I shared that with you, and now it's out in public. It's in hindsight, it was really embarrassing, but um, we never completely 100% mature, and somebody who is an innate risk taker will do stupid things occasionally. And I'm not immune. I might still do stupid things.
It happens sometimes. It happens.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
Thanks
We
for
really
sharing.
appreciate the exclusive, Jack.